All right. Welcome, everybody. It is your best friend Justin from jmasterproductions again, along with Shammy Deep here.
What's
And I'm sure
poppin'?
many of you, what's going on, Shammy?
What up?
But I'm sure many of you have heard by now the blackouts going on in Europe. I've made a lot of content over the years talking about blackouts. Many truthers in the community have made plenty of content breaking down, the subliminal messaging with politicians making references to it. Actually, in our stream from last week, we were just talking about Donald Trump making the reference to the blackout, where he's like, "Turn off the lights, turn off the lights."
Yep.
That one, and then the other one where with the CIA, he's talking about the CIA, and all of a sudden the lights go out. So again, those videos are speculated that it's subliminal messaging for a blackout during his presidency, and it's not out of the equation at all. I mean, how many movies have came out, especially recently, about blackouts going on, cyber attacks, people panicking, not knowing, no idea what's going on, right? Just like with these blackouts, it's like big mystery about what's going on, right?
hmm
As if like there's just some guys, like me and you sitting in our homes all alone and just planning to make the power go out for whatever reason, right? Some bad guys out there, right? But it's never your government, it's never an inside job, anything like that. It's always no. There's a boogeyman out there who's out to get you. It's just to get people scared, right? All these things, and it's interesting how they don't have much of an explanation for it. Like they're saying all these different stuff of what it might be, and it's almost like they're just trying to get people scared. It's almost like they have to look at the government for the correct answer, right? Because for some reason the government is the one all be all entity of truth, and it's the arbitrary of what's right and what's wrong. So people just listen to whatever the government says, and that's going to be the issue because a lot of the things, even the people at the World Economic Forum say, United Nations, and all these really big private corporations, is they talk about how they need to censor information, right? We need to control it for information because there's too much misinformation out there. These anonymous profiles, right? I'm sure maybe you've heard about how there's kind of an attack almost on anonymous profiles. How they want a digital ID for you so that everything you do on the internet you'll be held accountable for. So if you say something bad about the government, it's no longer you can't just make an account, right, and tweet, or I can't even just tweet even because of freedom of speech, right? That I don't agree with something the government does, and their goal is they want to come after you, right? They want to actually hold you accountable and throw you in jail. So that way there is no freedom of thought. Even there's not going to be freedom of thought, and that's how far we are, pretty much. Where there's not much freedom of thought because what happens now if you have freedom of thought? It still exists. I'm not saying it doesn't exist anymore, of course, but you're going to get looked at weird by people, right? Let's use Convid as an example. When that happened, what happens if you didn't get the thing at the time? You were looked at as a horrible person, but now if you didn't get it, most people at least will say, good for you. It's funny how the tables have turned, right?
Yep.
So anyway, not to get too far off topic, the point is, right, with the blackouts, they've shown that this is happening, but the government is trying to make it so that you look to them for your information so that you don't ever consolidate with your neighbors about what might be really going on. Is it maybe rich politicians, rich people, technocrats potentially ganging up together against poor old you and me who's got to pay taxes and work 40 hours a week just to barely even make ends meet, Um, so what's going on right now, right, is they're getting us ready that we're all subliminally programmed, all of us, right? We've seen the movies, they've been going on forever, about blackout, about cyber attack, and they've conditioned people to act in certain ways. People are going to panic, especially in the U.S. I don't know about you, but if that does happen, I'm probably not going to leave my apartment much unless it's an emergency.
Right.
But through these movies and stuff, people like they might think that sounds crazy, but you've been programmed on how to act, and what's going to happen if when you're really hungry and you have nothing in your house, you're going to unfortunately have to go out there and you're going to get something, whether that means robbing from someone, stealing from someone, breaking into someone's property to get that for yourself. So, and the issue, right, too, is we're so divided as well. Is that most of us don't even know who our neighbors are, so there's no trust. And if you found out your neighbor voted for the opposite political party of you, you're going to be very livid, I'm sure, and not trust them. So that's really what I have to say on the blackout in a nutshell. There's obviously more, but we've seen the program, and I've made a ton of content, even as far as what to prepare with. So people really need to get on it because it can happen any day. Just like again with COVID, like what happened in 2020, how that overnight, right? They just quarantined us and everything changed, and quite frankly, hasn't been the same since. So people really better get ready, and I really think we need a network, and I feel like this is why I like that. I love that we make content actually because this is an important message. Even if maybe we get two viewers, like legitimate viewers, that's if that's two people we help, then that's what this is all about.
Yeah. Um, I think more people have to start communicating in terms of what's happening in the world, and their perspective about these events that take place on the world stage. I think it would create a more cohesive environment if people actually knew each other's thoughts and knew how people felt, especially like their own neighbor. People who live in their own town or city. Like there needs to be some type of mutual understanding amongst people. And as far as this blackout situation, yeah, there's been a ton of predictive programming going on with that, and you've seen it from Hollywood. You've seen it, like you said, in Trump and the politics. You see it in music. What's that group? They have that album called Public Enemy. They have that album, "What You Gonna Do When the Grid Goes Down." Uh, it's just like all these predictive programming happening about power outages,
Yep.
and it's people have to just pay attention to it, because it's gonna happen. Um, if I'm not mistaken, Janet Politano, if that's her name, if I'm pronouncing it right, she was in the government. She said um, the next 9/11 is not when, but is not if, but when. And when it does happen, it's going to be a power outage. So they're telling you the powers are going to go out. And that movie that was directed by the Obamas, Leave the World Behind,
Hmm.
that whole movie was about cybersecurity attack that led to a worldwide power outage. And the one that we just saw the past couple days, and they only mentioned two countries, but it was actually three countries that the power outage happened in. It was France, Portugal, and Spain. But they only just say Spain and Portugal, but France also had power outage too. So that's basically like half of Europe. Like as far as like powerful countries, Spain and France are like pretty powerful countries in Europe. There's a lot of wealth in Europe. See, you see how you can see all those lands are connected. So, um, if it can happen amongst that wide of a land and over there, it could definitely happen in North America.
Hmm.
Um, and I think the best way to prepare for something like that is have food in your house, like non-perishables, have water, have first aid, have flashlights, a lighter fluid, have all these things, extra blankets if it's cold, have all these things prepared because you never know when it can happen. And these people they could either do it in the summer, they could wait till the winter time. You just don't know. And more than likely, it probably will happen in a warmer part of the year, like the summer, like it is approaching. And they can easily blame it on like weather warfare. More like weather. They can blame it on tornado or hurricane. But we all know all those type of events happen because of weather warfare. Their ability to create weather, to create chaos with weather. So um, I think that's really something that's important for people to understand.
Yeah, the
Um,
powers that be really showed that this year. I mean, not even, I would say, really the past year, actually starting in 2024. Like, they really
yeah,
haven't been shy about the weather warfare, especially with what happened in North Carolina back in September.
yeah,
Um,
and you remember that movie Twister that came out that year, and right after that, all these like tornadoes started happening.
yeah,
Like, come on.
right. And there's been weird weather, like, wasn't there like fire tornadoes or something going on in the Midwest, and like,
Yeah,
just like this app, there was like weird weather and stuff going on, but it's normal now, right? As here's the thing, as long as it doesn't affect you, right? People don't really
hmm,
care. That's like what it is. And for example, like we live in North Jersey, so like I don't know, we haven't really experienced much crazy weather, right? But what if
right.
one day, I don't know, there's a tsunami, right, in New York City that like takes us out? So you just
Yeah,
really never know. They've shown that actually in so many movies, like Day After Tomorrow, for a small
yeah,
example. Oh my God, there's dozens of movies like showing that. Same
right,
with LA. It shows like San Francisco, LA getting hit with tsunamis, earthquakes, all this crazy stuff.
right.
Um, but yeah, speaking of weather warfare too, I know with Spain, didn't something happen with Spain and Israel where Spain didn't do something Israel wanted and they basically gave them a flood? This is like pretty recent,
Um,
or
maybe
that
something like
that
maybe
was a
something like that did happen. I wasn't aware of it.
yeah. I think it happened a few months ago. I don't remember what the exact situation was, but I think it was
Okay.
something to do with weapons. Like they wanted weapons from Spain or
Hmm.
something like that, and Spain didn't do it. And then like the next day, they got this random huge flood that killed like a bunch of people. But then there was something with Turkey as well. Did you hear with that earthquake in Turkey that killed like 50,000 people?
I heard about that. When did that happen again?
I think that might have been last year or something. I don't
Yeah,
think I don't think it was that recent.
yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
But there was some like freaky looking cloud. I mean, like how we were just talking about Hurricane Sandy, so the sky looked weird. Like I remember there was a picture of some cloud. I don't know if it's real or not, but I'm assuming because I didn't look into it. It was just what the guy was showing. I didn't like double check it, but I assume it was. It was just like freaky looking, like futuristic type cloud. That's all I could describe it as. And then not long after that cloud formulated, like the earthquake happened
Right.
there. So
Yeah.
yeah, the
Yeah.
people gotta understand that this stuff is real. It goes as far back as John F. Kennedy talking about it in the '70s. There's
Hmm.
documents talking about it. So this isn't conspiracy. The conspiracy is your government telling you that this is a conspiracy because they've conspired against us. It's just
Yeah.
that the issue is that it's not a theory; it's reality, and they're all they've done. Like, and this is what I was saying with the misinformation. People just trust them so much that they say like I'm the one giving misinformation or someone similar to me, and people
Yeah.
just trust it. So at this point, like this is why I get mad at people, and I try not to, but there's sometimes people themselves got to snap out of it and
Yeah.
realize that hey, like you need to grow up and realize you're getting fucking lied to right to your face, and excuse my language.
Hmm.
But I don't know. It's just really crazy that they can have all these documents. They can have a president talk about these things, just like George W. Bush, or not George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush in 1991 or whatever talked about the New World Order on live TV. But it's still a conspiracy, right? So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And what you said, JFK in the '70s. JFK was before that. Because you remember he got
Oh
assassinated in the
yeah, the
'60s. Yeah.
'60s, right?
But
Excuse
I
me.
think he said if I'm not mistaken, 1958 or maybe 1956. That's when he said something about weather warfare. I could be wrong about which year exactly it was, but it was around his time in presidency or when he was about to run. He did mention weather warfare and how it should be banned and how it can be used as a weapon of destruction. So it's a real thing. Our own government has admitted to using it and admitted to saying that it's real. So people really need to look into these things. But as far as this blackout happening, I guess it's still happening as of today, April
I think it's
29th.
I think it's back actually.
Yeah, I think some they said they restored a lot of the power, but maybe some places they still don't have power. um, As far as the blackout, there is some numerology behind it that I've found,
Yeah, I was gonna
and
ask you.
yeah, there's a lot of numbers connected to it. So let me just share my screen,
Yeah.
and I will give me 1 second. Okay, all right, my screen's up there. Okay, good.
Yep.
All right, so this is everyone, as you know, is the gematria calculator, and like we've said before in the past, you can type any name in here, and you'll get your numerology to pop up right here. This is my name, Shamar. These are the ciphers that go along with my name, the four main ciphers. And as you can see, A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, up to Z, the 26th letter in the alphabet. This cipher is just Z is 1, Y is 2, X is 3, and A is 26. This cipher right here is the same as the first cipher. It's just once it gets to 10, the 10th letter, it turns into a 1. Then the 11 turns into a 2, and then the 12 turns into a 3. And then this cipher is the same as this one. It's just exactly the same thing. Once it gets to the 10th letter, it turns into a 1, then a 2, then a 3. So this is how we've found that these people who run the world, the cabal, the Illuminati, the Freemasons, the Jesuits, um, small hats. This comes from the small hat community, gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words. It comes from Kabbalah. A lot of Jewish people know about it. Um, so this system here has a lot to do with what's happening in the world and especially in the news. And this power outage happened on a day with 77 date numerology. So if you add up the numerology for that day, February, no, I'm sorry, not February, April 28th, 2025. If you add up those digits, you'll get to 77, right? So this happened on a 77 date numerology. If you type the word power into the calculator, the first number is 77. Obviously, it was a power outage. Now, the New York Times, they had an article that had described the power outage with the word exceptional. It was an exceptional power outage, right? And this is the thing, like when you're reading these articles, you got to look at the certain terminology that they're using. A lot of this terminology has like they have numbers connected to it. Exceptional. The word exceptional has a numerology of 52 and 56. And what's interesting is the word power outage also has 52, 56. So in this article, it mentions that there was exceptional power outage 52, 56. Now, what's interesting about those two numbers, right? Earlier this week or last week, whenever it was, last week rather, the Pope died. The Pope, 52, 56. 56 is a big number with the Jesuits, um, and it has a lot to do with the Freemasons and Illuminati. 56 is a big number with them, but 52, 56, and all of these ciphers. And the Pope obviously has a lot to do with Spain and you know, uh, obviously just that whole part of Europe. The Pope is a big deal over there. So I found that to be interesting. There was also three nations that had the power outage. It was France, Spain, and Portugal. Now, if you type the word 356, interesting, right? So the numbers are really all connected. And something else that was pretty interesting. I don't know if you ever heard of the cyber polygon simulation,
No.
but yeah, so the cyber polygon simulation is basically something they do to prevent or help prevent cyber attacks from happening. You know, it's like this thing where it takes place each year. This past year in 2024, it took place from September 10th. It took place from September 10th to September 11th, and from September 11th to April 28th, the day that the outage happened, was 229 days. 229. Let me just type that in for people to see. 229 is the 50th prime number, right? So what's interesting about that 50, right, from September 11th to the last day of the cybersecurity simulation, cyber polygon simulation, from the last day of that to the day of that blackout, April 28th, was 229 days, the 50th prime. The word blackout equals 50. Interesting. Now, the Jesuits, they have a lot to do with what's going on in the world. Oh shit, I'm sorry. I spelled Jesuits wrong. Jesuits equal 50. The actual word, cyber polygon, 50. And what happened in the blackouts? It became a nationwide emergency, 50. So a lot of interesting things here. A lot of interesting things here. Uh, these numbers are really all connected. Again, 229 days from the cyber polygon ending to the blackout happening. 229 days, right? That's the 50th prime. Blackout equals 50. Jesuits equals 50. Cyber polygon equals 50. Emergency equals 50. Interesting. Um, Arturo Sosa. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he is what they call the Black Pope. And the Black Pope is the leader of the Jesuits. Um, the Black Pope is really heavily connected to the regular Pope, but they're all part of the same organization.
Right.
Arturo Sosa, that's him, right? Um, I should actually pull up his birthday, but uh, just if you want to look up his birthday is November 12th, right? So from November 12th to April 28th, the day of the blackout, it was 67 days later. Where do we see 167? Cyber Polygon. So this is where I mean is like these things are happening by ritual code, and it's not by accident. You got people here. Let me just You got people here who think all these things are by accident, by chance. Oh my God, it's so awful that these people have a blackout. But really, if you trace the numbers, you can see that there's a common numbers. There's common numbers happening with all of these stories that are coming out. Again, exceptional. The word used in the New York Times article: 52, 56, power outage, 56, 52, Pope, 52, 56. The number 3, if you write it out, 56. Word blackout, 50. Jesuits, 50. Cyber Polygon, 50. Emergency, 50. It happened 267 days from Arturo Sosa's birthday. This all just pointing to the Jesuits. And, since the Pope died last week, I highly believe that this was a ritual, and so it's not by accident. And we don't know now that the Pope has died. There was a prophecy made that this was the last pope. The 266 pope was the last pope. Is this what they're going to do? Are they going to shut the power grid down and actually, summon the end of the world? Are they giving us the signs? Is this a pre-telling to what could happen here in North America? I mean, I hope not, but whatever happened with this blackout, it definitely wasn't by mistake.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying before about people need to take this serious because it's no one cares until it hits your home. Then
Right.
you start to care. Once it hits your home turf, then all of a sudden people care and want sympathy. But people need to understand that the government is not going to help you in this situation. The government is the enemy. Whatever the government says is a lie. Whatever their narrative is going to be of who's doing it, why it's happening, the whole 9 yards with the questions, it's going to be misleading. It's going to be wrong. And there's plenty of people they can blame. They don't even have to have, honestly, a real enemy. They could just say it's a guy in his basement who was bored and he hacked in. They don't really have to have a real boogeyman, just like with COVID, excuse me, how that wasn't a real person or thing at all, right? It was just a word
Right.
that they got people afraid of. So when it comes down to it, they could use an anonymous person. They could say it's China, it's Russia, it's Iran. I mean, right? The excuses are endless of what they could say. They could say there's terrorists here and they're on American soil. They could say anything, but the point is you know until if you have kids or something or you have a family, because it's just me where I live. I don't have anyone else to worry about really where I live, at least besides myself. But like, imagine you have kids and there's a blackout. You can't get them food or water, and they're coming up to you saying they're hungry or they're thirsty or something. You're probably going to go get them what they need, and you might have to hurt people. You might hurt people yourself. You might be willing to do it just to get some food and water, not only for yourself but for kids. And what do you think other people are going to do? What do you think? How do you think people are going to even respond without being able to go on their phone for a
Right.
couple of days? You see, the blackout is not going to be forever. That's not what we're saying. We're not going to say, "Oh, we're never going to have power again." No, there's going to be a blackout. There's going to be chaos during that blackout, but it's going to come back, and then that's when there's going to be a new digital ID more than likely introduced. The world is going to transition after that period. It's going to start with some sort of digital IDs. You're not going to be able to, like we were saying in the beginning, even access the internet unless you have some sort of digital footprint on you. And I think that's actually what it's called: digital footprint, a digital twin, all these things where they want to track and trace you, where they want to hold you accountable for what you do. They want to make sure you're being a good little boy or girl. They want to have a Black Mirror type social credit score system, which is essentially how obedient you are to the government. So we're about a shift, and we feel this shift, right? I mean, 2025 has been like all about AI, right? It's been all about uh, aliens, even the possibility of that. There's been all this weird weather going on. You got tensions going on in the Middle East. You got people like the Pope going in ritualistic deaths the way they are. And you just have to look a little. Like, I don't understand the numerology the way Shammy does, but I mean, just looking at him break it down, you can't tell me that these things aren't a coincidence. You can't tell me that these people who mind you, are in really big positions of power in the world, aren't teamed up together with other people who are in positions of power in the world and going against the sheep, which would be all of us, the people who aren't in the occult, essentially. So that right now we should be networking. This is why I've been especially on other truthers to network as much as possible, because this is a time that where we need to be making friends. And if there is an emergency, even maybe having some sort of knowing where certain locations are, because you're not going to have Google Maps or anything, right? So you're going to have to know a little bit of geography on how to get around, even, or maybe have a physical map at least. Um, so you have to always be ready and know maybe where you can even access clean water in your area, because I'm sure when there's a blackout, we're not going to have our water systems running. So these are things just to keep in mind, and the why I keep saying networking is because if you have people that you could trust, let's say your whole town trust each other, right? You live in a town with 200 people, small town, but you all trust each other, right? You can just walk outside and you can know that you're not going to get punched in the face or something, or someone's not going to try to hurt you and your family just to get some food or some water off you. You see, if there's trust, then people aren't going to be manipulated by outside forces like the government who are trying to take and manipulate and ruin your life, actually. So that's the importance, is because if you have a community of people that you trust and that you could share the resources you all have, whether it be food, water, stuff to barter with, even maybe ways to cook if there's no power, light fires. I don't know. You use your skills, right? I'm sure there's you got 200 people. You all have different skills. You put the skills together. But this is what the powers that be have done. They have divided us to where we don't talk to each other. And again, like I said in the beginning, if you found out that this person was the opposite political party and they voted for the opposite political party you like, then you probably wouldn't like them that much or trust them that much. So this is why I always say too, politics is a dog and pony show. Stop watching these people. Stop listening to them. Stop falling for the Donald Trump is going to save the world stuff, because it's not happening.
Yeah, not happening whatsoever. And it's also funny how Arturo Sosa, he is the like I said, the Black Pope, and he is serving as the 31st Superior General of the Society of Jesus, aka the Jesuits, right? And he's 76 years old. In Gematria, Spain is 7631. And that's just something I just saw right now off the rip. So, this was definitely a ritual, and it was definitely the Jesuits who were behind it. And I think people need to look more into who these people are. Spain, 7631. Arturo Sosa, he's the 31st serving Superior General, and he's also at the age of 76. So, people can say, oh, these numbers are just, or it's just a coincidence that these numbers all line up. I beg to differ. And when all these words, a lot of them don't even a lot of them don't even relate to one another, but for some odd reason, they all have a connection to this blackout story. And the Jesuits, they're all one and the same numbers. So I just find that pretty interesting. And it's time that people, we wake up. It's really sad that a lot of people will see this and they'll deny it and say, "Oh, well, these are just numbers. You don't mean anything." Well, you really don't know what you're talking about if you say that, because at the end of the day, these people who rule the world, who run everything about our lives, the cell phone, the data, and how they track you and how they spy on you, all that stuff is ran through by numbers. It's all calculated. Everything is about numbers. This whole world is about numbers. And I
Yeah,
think if people really understood the significance of numbers and how powerful they are, we would really, it would change people's lives. Every day we wake up to a clock system. We wake up to a calendar created by the Catholic Church, the Gregorian calendar. We wake up to, uh, hitting our alarm clock at a certain time. We wake up to getting our paycheck at a certain number. We have to get on to work at a certain time. We got to clock out at a certain time. Everything's numbers. You can't escape it. So for me to present this information and then have someone say, "Oh, that doesn't mean anything," you can just make these numbers equal anything. Well, you really can't, and I would like to see somebody try to do that. But what I can prove is that a lot of these things that come across our screens and on the news that we hear about, they all have some type of number connection to the president, to the Pope, the Superior General of the Jesuits, Arturo Sosa. That's why they say all roads lead to Rome, because really the Pope has really ruled the world. And it's like it's the Pope and the Jesuits, but it's also the families above them too, who serve this lower power. If you want to say Satan, you want to say the devil, whatever you want to call it. There's ancient families who've been around for thousands of years. They really have the full control of the world. We're never going to know them by face. We might hear some of their names, some of their ancient names, these like Medici families, but Really, you're never gonna know who these people are. You can walk past them in the street and will never know that this person's worth billions of dollars. Those are the people who really run the world, and they have the Catholic Church under their hands. They have the Christian Church. They have the Jewish religion. They have the Abrahamic religions. All the Abrahamic religions are under them, and they use the Abrahamic religions to control the world and divide. You know, almost every war that is happening on the earth is because of religion, and it's all stemming from the four Abrahamic religions. So the Muslims, the Catholics, the Christians, the Jews, all of them are fighting for what reason? So these people can make more money and they can divide and conquer. And at the end of the day, they're pushing an agenda to end the world. You know, it's like we're playing in a simulation in a game, in a simulated game, like good versus evil. And right now, the good side's losing. You know, we a lot of people who, and I believe most people in the world are good. I believe that a lot of people come from a good family or at least have a good upbringing or care about things in this life. It's just that they've allowed themselves to be stagnated by a lot of different things. You know, they don't move. They're not proactive. And when it comes to changing the world, most people just want to stay in one comfortable place. And as long as they can feed their family, that's all they care about, you know. And that's fine. I get why some people are like that. We live in a survival world, you know. It's like cutthroat where if you don't if you don't work, you don't eat. So, I understand that, but at the same time, we're all being played for fools here, and all of us are basically slaves. At the end of the day, we're in debt to the system. So I personally, when I leave this earth, I don't want to see this world still be the same way when I came in. I would like to see this world get destroyed and rebuilt and have a new system where people can live free, people can do what they want, you can live on land, you're not subject to taxes and all these types of expenses and all these extra things that are such like a nuisance and have no real, spiritual value to your life, like the purpose of paying taxes each year and you have no say in where the taxes goes. Like I'm not opposed to taxes, but the fact that you don't have a say in where they go, that's when it's really corrupt and wrong. And then you have the richest people in the world, they don't pay any taxes. Like, come on, like that's just nonsense. And anyone who can sit there and like go along with that, you have to be a weak person, because for me, our generation, I feel like we see this stuff and we're like, yeah, this doesn't make sense. Like, why are we living this way? Why are we giving our time and energy a 9 to 5 just to slave away for a job that can easily replace us? And at the end of the day, most of us will get replaced by these jobs by AI. So they really don't need us. They don't have a purpose for us anymore. So what's the point of us slaving away our youth? A lot of people our age, we're like tired of it. We're not like our parents' generation and the generation before. We don't
Yeah.
want to work all these hours just to get paid nothing. And then on top of that, we can barely afford our rent. We can barely afford food. Like it's not like it was like 20 years ago when like rent was like no more than like $1,000 like for a decent apartment. Like you could literally pay like $500 for like a nice apartment, 2 3 bedroom apartment. But now a 2 3 bedroom apartment is like over 2 grand.
Yeah.
Like who and we're not getting paid more than we were 20 years ago. It's the same rate.
Yeah.
So it is absolutely insane how we're living in this time and people are not cracking on the pressure. And sure enough, we will see people crack. The system's gonna fold. And it just seems like they're bringing on this blackout. Like if there is going to be a blackout, it's going to happen in this time of Trump's presidency, and it's probably going to be the reason the dollar collapse, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Very well could be. And yeah, it's like you were just saying, a lot of good stuff you just said there. And in regards to our generation and like the Pope and working and all this stuff and not getting paid enough, right? This is what they want you to think. Well, you just got to work more hard. You got to get a second job. You got to pick up a side hustle. You got to go be a landlord and invest in all of these properties, right? Let me
Hmm.
tell you something. This building I live in just got bought out by this guy in October or November, right? He recently bought it out.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, this guy, the way I met him, right? He's never here. He's got like people that manage it for him, and he was the way he looked, bro. He had like face tattoos. He looked like a Joe Rogan type, like he does a podcast like this.
Yeah.
He was wearing a shirt, bro, that said "cult leader," and I asked him, I was like, "Are you a cult leader?" And he's like, "Not yet." I was like, "Oh, like let me know. I'm down to join. Do it." But anyway, dude, like he looked. I was like, I need to find out this guy's name because he looked like a podcaster, and funny enough, he was. But like for like mentoring for real estate, said in
Mm-hmm.
his bio like 10 million plus dollars, right? Um, real estate portfolio. So the guy obviously has money,
Mm-hmm.
and he basically does like podcasts about like real estate, how to mentor. I mean, I don't like watch it or anything, but like this is what he's doing, right? So he buys the building. He's because he has money, he can invest when someone moves out because a lot of people have. He renovates the apartment. He's doing some renovations in the hallway. Um, and he's going to raise my rent. Someone who doesn't move like me, he's already raised my rent more than the old landlord has, and I've been here for 3 years. Raised it by $100, which is
Mm.
like really sucked, honestly, so far.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's fucked.
but this is what he's doing, right? This is what landlords do. My point with why I'm saying this is, this is what landlords do. They're useless. Like they have all this money from being kind of useless, right? Oh, cool.
Yeah.
They're building a place for people to live. Like, who can afford to live in these places? That's the thing, right? Is because
Yeah.
what's he? It's all about money. So what he does, right? Because this is his strategy. Is he's gonna jack up the rent in the places he renovates. And in my apartment, the people who don't move out, he's just gonna keep raising our rent until we freaking move out, and then renovate our apartment, then jack that rent up. And then when he sells the building, because he made renovations, he's gonna make a big profit off it, right?
Mm.
So like, it's just the whole American mindset, what we worship, what we view as like good or moral. It's almost like if I stood next to a millionaire and if people found out he's a millionaire, they're just going to take him way more serious than me, despite, maybe he could say something completely ridiculous, but people know he's a millionaire and I'm not. So they're just going to take him more, they're going to take someone like him more serious. And someone like the Pope or like Donald Trump or Barack Hussein Obama, do you think these people are in these huge positions of power and influence in the world by mistake? By like, oh, they just worked really hard. They went to school. They got a good grades. Then they went to college. They got a college degree, a master's degree from Ivy League school, and worked their butt off. Got up at 6 a.m. every day. The whole spiel about that.
Right.
Hard, never sleep, and all that. It's like this is what people think that these guys did. Same with like music artists. It's like they think that Rihanna, for example, like was up all night making music. Maybe she was, yes, but like
Mm-hmm.
she has a team, right? It's
Right.
like she's famous for a reason, right? She's probably a bloodline of some sort, of someone in the occult. That's why she's there. Or
Yeah.
if not, she just probably sold out, right?
Right. Right.
So anyway, my point is right that your average everyday person is in a complete different matrix. Like the people I work with, right, at my sales job, the two people in my department. I mean, they're older. One is an 80-year-old lady who I've mentioned before, and the other guy's like 40. And my God, like everything Trump is doing right now, they love. Like they're just very brainwashed into that American patriotic mindset, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's like we've seen the shift from wokeness to now, yeah, nationalism and like America. So Donald Trump, I mean, this guy is going to completely betray everyone. The MAGA crowd is not ready, it seems, for what's coming. I always used to think that we're the ready ones, but their guard is completely down now, um, because of Trump being there. But it, the point is, in what we're saying here, is this is going to happen. This isn't speculation. This isn't like, oh, what if a blackout? No, a blackout is coming here. It already happened sometimes, right? It's happened throughout time in the USA where a certain part will just randomly lose power for
Right.
whatever reason, but it goes back on. It's all test runs. This whole thing is probably a test run for something much bigger to come, just like with what happened in 2020, right? Which was like the world basically changed drastically
Mm-hmm.
over something that didn't exist. So we're not where we need to be as people. It's the people. Your average everyday person is in a complete different matrix to a point that where if even if they found out truth, even if like I don't know, their favorite politician or whoever they look up to came up and was like, yeah, this is all true, and said it themselves, still their heads will spin. They won't be able to understand it. And it's like for and then even just beyond your average everyday person, you have truthers now even who
Right.
the truth community. And again, I don't know if these people are genuine or not. It's not like I really talk to them much, but the truth community now is completely hijacked to where you have the conspiracy type things like QAnon, the stupid stuff, right? And
Yeah.
then you'll have like your Andrew Tates and Nick Fuentes, Jake Shields, and all them, and Candace Owens, and then you have like those accounts that we actually did a video on that I showed you on here. That like Andrea Lynn account, it has like 50,000 followers on X and like says all this valid truth, but it's just like it doesn't go any deeper than just like surface level stuff, and the person has no links or nothing, and it's just we're not where we need to be at all. So again, it's all about time. It's the powers that be can really do whatever they want. It's a sad reality, but they
Hmm.
can do whatever they want because again, we have all these people who won't acknowledge what's true, and even if they do see it, there's no real action because then you got the distractions, right? For men, right? You got the sports on TV, you got video games. For women, you got those like girly type shows and the makeup, the social media, this whole stuff that women's minds are completely caught up in. That we've
Right.
made videos about. Um, so people aren't ready for these things, but it's gonna turn into the Hunger Games at some point. We can't say all right how when and how is it gonna happen or how long is it gonna happen because we don't know. None of us know that for sure.
Right.
But like we're saying, we're not saying the power is going to go off forever, but it's going to go off for a period of time. And again, this is why you always have to be ready. It could be a few days, it could be a week, it could be a month. You never
Yeah.
really.
You never know. And with these numbers right here, collapsed power grid. Notice it's 95. Disaster is 95. Emergency 95. So it's kind of crazy how a lot of these words kind of equal the same thing, same numbers. Yeah, that can be by coincidence, but don't be surprised if there's a 95 connected to these events happening about power grid, collapsed power grid. Disaster. Right, so like I said, 95 and emergency 95 with collapsed power grid 95. Um, with Spain, they had a
Let's
50.
just let's maybe clear things up for people who like might not understand it, right? Like, all right,
Right.
so use the collapsed power grid and disaster for example. So like to make that work, let's just say like, all right, disaster, 95 days after today, right?
Right.
Because
It could be something like that, or it could be like the date, September 5th, right? Or May 9th, 5/9. It could be something like that, or it could be, like you said, 95 days after Trump's birthday, 95 days after the Pope's birthday, the 95th day of Trump's age. It could be anything like that. But if these numbers
then you
connect.
have like disaster, right? So like, are you trying to? Is like the point to like connect them together, the 95 and 202, for example.
Well, the 202 could just be on its own number, but just the fact that collapsed power grid equals 95, just like disaster and emergency, I
Hmm.
wouldn't be surprised if there was a collapsed power grid and it was a big disaster that became a national emergency. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a 95 connection to it, right? So that's what I mean. And we can see collapsed dollar equals 59, just like Spain equals 59. And Arturo Sosa is 76, and he's the 31st Superior General of the Society of Jesus. So, a lot of these numbers have a connection, and the cabal, the people who run the world, this is what they do. They look for the numbers that equal what word, and they create an event to happen based on the numbers. Like a collapsed power grid, it could happen on the 202nd day of the year, which is coming up in about less than 100 days, right? It could be maybe that 202nd day of the year. Maybe that exact day is also 95 days after Trump's birthday, you know, or at 95 days after, Trump went to Spain. Let's just say he went to Spain, and then 95 days later he went to Spain, and then this happened, So like that's how they would set up a ritual to happen. They've done it plenty of times with the Pope. The Pope would visit a place, and then X amount of time later something would happen in connection with how much time has passed since he was there. X, Y, and Z. It happens way too often, and if you're really looking, you'll find the number connection. But the average person, they're not going to find the number connection. You know what I mean? Um, and that's
Yeah,
the thing. We don't have enough people in this world who investigate. That's the problem.
right. Yeah, and even someone like myself, right, who like I'm obviously very aware of what's going on in the world. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm perfect or I know everything, of course, but I mean, like these numbers, like it's not like I understand them that well. There's going to be some things, right, that maybe I understand better or someone else understands better. So it's like when it comes to the numbers, you don't have to get so lost in the sauce with them, of course, and constantly be looking because if once you know it, then things will just stick out to you. Like maybe something you see in the media on like a headline cover, like the time the article was posted, the date, maybe there's a number in the headline like 33. It's probably the most common thing that sticks out to me at least is
Mm,
33 or
right.
something like that.
Mhm.
So it's just something small to look out for. Like a 33 is, I think, it's just a small thing for people to look out for. That's how you'll know something. It's a Masonic connection. That's like what it ultimately comes down to is Freemasons, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to 33 and all that stuff, that's the brotherhood. This is how the occult communicates with themselves, letting other members know, all right, this is part of a ritual, it's part of the plan.
Right. Yeah, I'm just looking up what these words mean. Yeah, a lot of words, have all of them have number connections to them. And it's just if you know certain numbers, then you'll know what to look for. Like I said to you in the last video, the word kill has the number 44. 44 is a big word with is a big number with murder and killing and shooting. A lot of shootings happen with 44. It could be 44 date numerology. It could be April 4th, 4-4. Uh, 44 days after the Pope's birthday. It's a lot of different ways. These numbers can exist. Shooting 44. I'm not mistaken. I don't think murder is 44 now, but it's just so many numbers is 44. Military. A lot of times we see mass shootings happen with former military people. 44. And look how military is almost the same
Yeah. Well,
as
I think they
shooting.
commit suicide at a really high rate every
Right.
day.
Look how similar military is with shooting. You
Yeah.
know, and
It doesn't
then
surprise me. Yeah, because
yeah,
they kill people, people kill them, right? They're
right,
committing suicide at such a crazy rate right now. Um,
right.
I think it's because they realize, right? Isn't I think that's why the suicide rate is high. Like, oh shoot, like I'm basically fighting for the bad guys. That's what they're realizing.
Yeah, yeah. They come to that realization. You know, it's really sad actually.
Yeah,
And
because there's stuff that can come good from the military. Like I don't agree with the training and stuff. Like I remember my friend Jimmy, who you met, like he would tell me about the training he did that he when he went, and I'm just like, damn. So they basically treat you like shit for a while, and then you're a marine. It's like a frat, bro. Like how when you first join a frat, like in a
right,
college. I never did it, but like my friends would all who did it, they would tell me about it, and
right,
you're just someone's bitch. It's just like when you're new in the corporate world, right?
right.
So it's all about treating someone like shit and controlling them. Um,
Yeah,
that's what military is. That's what police are, right? I'm sure
right,
police have some sort of connection to maybe words like, sheep or whatever, or dog even.
right. Yeah, and look at like I was saying about military shootings happening from. I mean, mass shootings happening from ex-military. So a lot of times you hear about them, they happen on a Saturday. As you can see, the number connection right here, 109, 107. and it's something that people just have to take into account that it's this is what's going on in the world, and it's not something that is made up. It's not a conspiracy theory. It could be a conspiracy. Conspiracy is when two parties are conspiring together to create a problem. That could be a thing, a legit thing to say. But a theory, no, it's not a theory. It's a fact. And unless we really come together and expose it, and then have people wake up to the truth, it's going to continue to happen. We're going to continue to see power outages. We're going to continue to see, you know, mass emergencies happening across the world, weather warfare, and the people who run everything, they're going to sit back and collect off all the damage that was done. Because what happens when, a city's destroyed? The government comes in and hires their people to build it back up. And so they just make the money back, you know?
Smart
So
cities. That's what's coming next. The smart cities, the 15-minute cities, all that.
right, right. So, we have a lot of problems ahead of us, especially in our generation. We have a lot of battles to fight. And, the generations above us, before us, they already fought their battle for the most part. A lot of them are tapped out. So, it's up to us to fight for the future. And, as we see throughout history, each generation's youth fought for whatever was happening in that time period, right? Let's just use like Vietnam for example. You had that hippie movement where a lot of people were against the Vietnam War because they knew that we shouldn't have even been over in Vietnam. They knew it was wrong, and then they knew that for us to send all these people over there just to get killed, it just made no sense. And then at that same time, JFK was killed and murdered, and a lot of people back then believed that was a setup by the government. So you had a lot of people who were awake back in those days who were speaking truth, but over time, people, they get shut out, they get shut down, they don't have proper funding, and a lot of these movements get dwindled out. And then by the time the 80s hit, when the crack epidemic hit, and then a lot of people were on drugs, and then the AIDS came about, a lot of people got wiped out, and a lot of them were young people too. The same people who were rebelling against the Vietnam War back in the 60s, they got killed from either AIDS or crack cocaine, or gun violence, or they got locked up for years because of the what's that law, the what's that law that Ronald Reagan put to play, with the gun racketeering charges. Um, yeah, a lot of people got locked up for on racketeering charges. And it's sad because
What exactly is racketeering charges?
it's basically like if you were part of a criminal organization, like you'll basically go down with the whole organization. Like, let's say like you were like a small fry in a crime family or whatever. Any amount of evidence they find against you, they'll put you down for like a lot of years in prison, basically.
Hmm. Okay.
Because before the racketeering law, whatever it was, a lot of people were getting off from, because they weren't. Let's say they got caught with like a gram of like cocaine or weed. It wasn't enough to sentence somebody for like 30 years. But once like the racketeering thing came in and Reagan came in and used that law, that bill that signed a lot of people lives away, then that's when like if you got caught with a gram of weed as a dealer, you would go down for like 30 years because you're part of a criminal organization. You
Oh,
know,
yeah, I see.
so yeah, so it was like a really messed up time, and a lot of black people got locked up and got put away for petty small amounts of weed or cocaine. Because crack cocaine came out in the 80s, and when it first hit the streets, it was kind of just like weed. Like people were doing it just because this is like the new thing. You can get high. It was really cheap, and like it was like funding a lot of like people, a lot of black people back in those days. People who lived in poverty, they were selling it and they're making tons of money, but they didn't realize over time, like they were destroying their community because crack cocaine is not weed. Crack cocaine is like 100 times stronger than weed, and it was really messing people up. So that was a plan by the CIA to destroy the black community, and really mess people up. So, my parents' generation, they all went through that. You know, especially people who lived in New York or any type of inner city like Chicago, Detroit, Philadelphia, you know, L.A. A lot of these urban cities got hit with crack cocaine, and you know the drug dealers made a lot of money, but they came to find out that the drug was like so powerful and strong that it created a lot of turmoil within households. You know, the parents who were once working, citizens, hardworking citizens, they got hooked on this drug. You know, crack cocaine is extremely addictive.
Oh
They,
yeah.
they hit it once, and then these once like blue collared, working people, once they hit that drug, they were full on addicts and they became addicted to dope, and now they couldn't pay their bills, they couldn't take care of their families. They're now really like, stealing and robbing and killing for the drug. So like this was all by design for the CIA to keep black people down, you know. Um, and then they tried to put AIDS out, and it backfired. You know, AIDS ended up happen. A lot of people got AIDS, not just black people. You know, because it was really to kill black people. That's what AIDS was created, and they put it out with the gay community, the black and Spanish gay guys. They had them, exposed to it, but it ended up like reaching white people and like rich society. It really backfired on them, just like LSD did. LSD was the same thing. LSD was put out in the '60s to kill off black people because they were really using it to mind control, MK Ultra, but they put it out there for black people to get on it. Another, basically like a test to see what would happen, but white people end up liking it and like it became their drug, and so it backfired, and a lot of white people got addicted to it.
I
So
think I think heroin's the white version of crack cocaine.
yeah, heroin now is well, before, I would say before 2015 it was heroin. After 2015 it became what's the new one, uh
Fentanyl.
yeah, fentanyl. Yeah, that's the new thing.
Oh, there's been a few people in my town that have died from that. I heard from smoking weed, and who are like not much older than us, like in their 30s and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, so my town, dude, it's like I'm Teaneck. I don't mean to say your town name if you didn't mind there, but
It's fine.
yeah. So I used to work in Teaneck. You know, Right Pizza in Teaneck. I used to work. I don't think it's open anymore. I think it shut down. But I
On
used to work.
Teaneck Road.
Yeah, on Teaneck Road.
Yeah, I know that place. That's funny. You used to work
Yeah,
there?
yeah. In 2021 that year, because I was
What?
yeah, I was unemployed. Yeah.
Yo, I probably saw you there.
Yeah, you might have, dude, because I was a delivery driver. I worked there like almost every day.
Yo,
But
those guys are scummy as hell.
dude, that owner was such an a hole, bro. Yeah, he was not a nice guy.
Yo, they were dirty motherfuckers in there.
Yeah, his food was pretty good. Like I gotta say, his food was pretty good.
Yeah, the food was good, but they were dirty.
Yeah. So, but of course, that's that part of Teaneck. Not that Teaneck's like a bad area necessarily, but like
Yeah,
that part is not the best. Like I see a lot of drunks, like crack addicts. But anyway, my town is like similar. There's a lot of drunks. It's more like white people here, though. It's like it's there is now that I've been here a few years. It's in the immigration and stuff. There's more Spanish people here now and like Muslim. I noticed, but for the
yeah,
most part, it is white people here. But like a lot of white people here, like they're like ex like heroin addicts, like the typical. It's like the way they talk, bro. It's like the typical white trash type stuff, and
hmm,
yeah, it's like, dude, the powers that be, of course, they really went after black people, and they still do in many ways. But it's not as much with drugs. I feel like it's just manipulation stuff now, especially with like the BLM and that ridiculousness and all that stuff. And now, bro, like, and it's like we were saying in previous streams with these micro influencers, how they really influence a lot of racism, right?
yeah,
How it seems like a lot of people who are like really far right wing tend to be racist. And the I made a video about like Jake Shields, and he said something about you have to see people like only intelligent people will look at you by race and judge you because and try to justify like why you should look at someone for race. And it's just messed up. But what is it about like the powers that be and their hatred for like black people? Are they just racist people? Like, what is it with them?
Well, they
And like,
know,
it's obviously they go after black people.
yeah,
That black people are the chosen people. Yeah,
right. They know that black people are the real Hebrews of the Bible. The real Jews of the Bible is not the Caucasians that come from Ashkenazi land. Those people come from the synagogue of Satan, and
the Caucasus Mountains, right?
those Caucasus
Yeah,
Mountains Jews, they're not the real ones. They're the synagogue of Satan. Um, Not that's not to say all of them are bad people, though. A lot of them are not very nice people, but as a whole, as like from their leadership, from the top of their food chain and their hierarchy, those are bad people who serve the devil. But the Hebrews of the Bible, the people who were spoken about in each religion, who come from like way back in the day, they were melanated people, and it's clear, if you read the Bible, Jesus, Yeshua, is described as a dark complected man. It's skin of bronze, hair like wool. It's like, does that sound like a white person to you? Does that sound like a Ashkenazi Jew? So I don't understand how they can really think that they were real Jews. If Jesus was a Jew, how could he look like that? And then now these today's Jews think that's who they are. It's nonsense. But
they don't even
when
they don't even accept Jesus Christ. Jewish people.
exactly, yeah, because they thought that he was like a fake Messiah. But the thing is that they serve the synagogue of Satan, so that's why they think that. And at the end of the day, they have a conditioning about them. They are conditioned to believe one thing and that's almost every religion. Though you're conditioned to believe one story, one God, or maybe multiple gods. But it's just at the end of the day, these people at the top, they know that black people have the most power when we're together. And that's why great civilizations in the past, African civilizations, they built pyramids, they built all types of monument, they had gold, they had all these type diamonds. Like, if you go to Africa, why do you think all the European countries are still there? It's because they're mining the hell out of the ground and the minerals. All the diamonds and golds coming out of Africa, they know like that place is special, and they enslaved the people there, just like how they did thousands of years ago. But yeah, in slavery here in America, uh, so they used to like eat like the slaves. Like, they would kill the slaves and they would literally eat them because they believed like their blood had like power, like their flesh had power, the melanin in their body had power. Like, this is how sick these people were. Like, these are like sick-minded people, and those same people who own slaves, they're still at power. Those same families that own these massive amounts of slaves and all this land, they still rule today. It's just that you don't know their name, and we don't have a collar or chain around our ankles and necks. You know, so the this is still modern day slavery, and as you can see, the word black equals 106, Black Lives Matter 106, and for the record, Black Lives Matter is not even owned by black people; it's owned by white people. So it really has no significance to uh, black people at all. It's just like another uh, divide and conquer tactic. Uh,
Yeah, dude, Black Lives Matter. That's when I started seeing like all like racist stuff pop up on social media because I feel like I never would see that much stuff like that's racist at least, and
right,
ever since then, like it's become a thing.
right.
So this is like why we say too the world shifted in 2020 because there was like major division. You have all those protests that were going on were really crazy to watch. Like I never went to any of them, but dude, like they were really like people were so angry and like it really wasn't for a cop like whatever they said happened. You know, a cop on his head or whatever. It was because people are really angry about other stuff. Like I feel like people, our generation especially, a lot of people are angry because Like we have no purpose in life necessarily. You know, the powers that be have, you know, whether you're black, white, or whatever. Like we kind of are what we do day in day out doesn't make the world go round necessarily. We're not really helping anyone. We go to our jobs that are meaningless. All of our jobs, let's be real, are pretty much meaningless. Like none of us are really doing anything in our jobs or in our lives to help people much, and we just want to make money, right? And then we just want to, you know, be selfish and not focus on these things. And because we want to ignore people that are suffering, we all suffer as a consequence of that. That's why
Yep.
when you look at Africa, for example, right, and you see all these people suffering. I mean, look at Elon Musk or this guy who's a hero right now, or Donald Trump, even, like, who has all this money, who could literally make everyone in Africa a millionaire because
Right.
these guys are billionaires, right? These guys are multi-billionaires. They can make everyone in Africa a millionaire and still be richer than pretty much everyone in the U.S.
Right.
They don't do that. So it's very clear to see like the division and the conquer and who these people are really working for in the end of the day. But you know, people, this is what the average American would say. Well, I don't care what's going on there. I just they America first, and I get it. Of course, we shouldn't be going into Africa, vaccinating those people up. The you know the American corporations or whatever, Bill Gates' corporations. By the way, don't they like chase him out if they see him there?
Oh yeah, they definitely do.
Yeah, and like those corporations, I heard like they do chase people out if it comes down to it. Some parts,
Hmm.
which is what we should be doing here.
Right. Right. We should be bombarding the Bill Gates and Donald Trumps and Elon Musk. We should be bombarding their places. We should be bombarding YouTube and Google and overthrowing their quarters, headquarters. You know, it's like as a society, we outnumber these corporations, and really, it's all fascism. You know, the combination of government and major corporations, they're working together to run this country.
Yeah,
This
and their
this entire
biggest fear is you fighting out. That's their biggest fear.
exactly. That's why they got us in the Democrat and Republican debate. You know, when really it's just two wings on the same bird, and they're both in control. You know, you don't think Trump is a part of these big corporations when he gets elected and the most powerful people in the world are behind him during his inauguration? Like, come on. Like the
Was
guys who own Amazon and Facebook and in Tesla are literally standing behind him. You don't think that's fascism? Like
was it
people are,
wasn't Trump a billionaire twice?
I'm sure his family is like
Or like
billionaires.
that's the story about it. Like he was a billionaire twice. Not that it's legit, but
I know he was the 133rd richest person in the world. If I'm not mistaken, president equals 133. It also equals
uh,
47. How Trump is number 47.
yeah,
But yeah, Forbes magazine, they came out with an article saying Trump was the 133rd richest person in the world, or America, whatever it was. And this was right before. This was when Obama was in office, and so like that was kind of just like a telling thing. Like, hey, is he going to become president? 133rd richest person, president equals 133, and now Trump is the 47th president. So, you know, it's just crazy how these numbers, again, they line up with all these stories that come out in the news. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Trump was a billionaire at one point in time. I think we might have lost J Master production here. Yeah, we might have lost him, but yeah, it's crazy, people, how this is what's happening in the world. We got a lot of people who don't know about this stuff. And you know, to be fair, like I didn't know about this for a long time, you know. I had no idea about this stuff, but I always had a mind that questioned things. You know, I was raised to always question the world, you know, ask questions. I was always raised to, you know, look into things and, you know, never just settle for what the TV says or what someone tells you, really research stuff and bring it to light. What's up, J Masters?
Hey, my bad. Yeah, I lost internet there.
It's all good.
What were you saying before I cut out because I missed it?
I was just saying how how these numbers all come back to stories that come out in the news. Like I was saying, president equals 133, and Trump gets announced by Forbes before the 2016 election that he's the 133rd richest person. Then he ended up becoming number 47. It's just crazy how the numbers really run back to all these stories.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I never saw the president run through here, but yeah, the 133 because presidents obviously that has a really big like a lot of Freemasonic stuff to it, right? As well.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a big Freemason number,
I think
133.
I think George Washington actually has the Freemason symbol on his tombstone, doesn't he?
He probably does. I wouldn't be surprised actually. Let me see. It's 48. Figure out what equals 133, but Freemasonry is 139. Yeah. Um. Yeah. It's a lot of things happening with these numbers, man. Let's see, Skull and Bones, 76. 202. Where did we see the 202 before? That was what the blackout, right? Power grid 202.
Collapsed power grid. Yeah.
Yeah, collapsed power grid was 202. Spain was 76. Skull and Bones equals 202, 76. Ortoro Sosa is 76. Interesting. Interesting.
Yeah, and a lot of people probably look at this and think like, they don't believe it because they don't believe in it, right? Or it's kind of like, with Santa or whatever. It's like, all right, so they don't believe in Santa Claus and all that stuff, but there might be a little kid or not. I just that's a bad example. Let me not use that.
Yeah.
Just because someone doesn't believe in murdering, for example, right, doesn't mean just because you don't believe in murdering doesn't mean someone else doesn't and won't do it to you, or
Right.
won't do it, or it doesn't happen every day. So
Right.
you got to look at the people who are in power again and understand that, as I was saying before, they didn't get to where they were at like through hard work or through school and through dedication and all that stuff. They got to where they're at because these people are bloodlines who've been around for centuries.
Right.
You want to know who these people are? Well, I can't pinpoint to you who exactly is running every single thing, but I know there's a cause. There's I mean, there's countless books, websites, podcasts at this point. You don't even have to look at books. You could get podcasts now and consume information that way if it's easier. Because it definitely is. I could run through information quicker by listening than reading for sure. Um, but when you look at when you hear all this information, you have to be able to take in information, even stuff you might disagree with at first. And
Hmm.
it's important that we look at the world really for what it is and not how we want to see it. And it's very easy with politics, for example, which is an obvious dog and pony show. At least to me, it's extremely obvious. I don't know how it's not to other people, but the division is very obvious. Even if people agree with it, they still want to play into the voting and well, it's all we can do, and people can't use their imagination and imagine a better world or imagine we can actually change things. It's always they want to look at federal politics or whoever
Right.
it is, Donald Trump or Kamala Harris or whoever, whatever the hell happened to her, by the way. What's she up to?
Yeah, I know, right? I haven't heard anything about her.
I was just thinking
Um,
about her the other
yeah.
day. Like, whatever happened to her?
Right. It's funny how like I'm saying right here, Society of Jesus 5679. Where do we hear about the 56 thing? Pope 50, 56, 356, the other 56 that I had up here. Um, but what the story that we were talking about, 52 and 56, that's interesting. Um, Also, Skull and Bones 149 also equals collapsed dollar, and 202 collapsed power grid. That's
Mm.
interesting. 76 again with
Said
Arturo
that
Sosa.
before too.
Say that again.
you were just saying before too how the collapse of the power grid will probably lead to the collapse of the dollar.
Right, right. And what are the odds that these numbers have a link to collapsed dollar and collapsed power grid? And they also link to Skull and Bones,
Yeah,
Freemasons, the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits. It's just crazy, man. It's crazy.
yeah, really weird ties, bro. Like very strange, bizarre ties, especially being in the truth community and like just seeing how things have turned out with the micro influencers now and how that's evolved and
Hmm.
the small accounts, man. It's really strange, and I'm just thankful though, like the censorship on YouTube and especially Instagram. TikTok is whatever because I mean it's always been bad on there. Like they delete half the shit I post.
Right.
But like Instagram hasn't given me any issues. YouTube hasn't given me any issues. So I'm enjoying this prosperous, I'll call it, time of censorship. But it's crazy that that any of us even have to censor ourselves. It's
Right.
free speech. Free speech shouldn't be written down even in some sort of document, or it shouldn't. We shouldn't have to write it down for people to think free
Hmm.
speech is okay. It's a natural right, just like drinking water, just like eating food. It's a natural human right.
Yeah.
So we should never have to suppress ourselves, and that's the bigger picture.
Yeah. Going back to the 133 FBI, when you fully write it out, 133 president, 133, like we were saying, Trump was declared the 133rd richest person by Forbes right before the 2016 election, and he becomes 47, right? Government 133, White House 133. What other 133s we got here? And you can, it's
The
collapse 133.
Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah, Masonic Temple 133, Extinction 133, Dark Lord
Wait, what
133.
determines the number again? Is it like the breakdown of the numbers that equal the letters?
Yeah, like, the A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, and then you add all those up and then they get the value here. And then, this one's just reverse. This one's just the same one as this one. It's just once you get to 10, it becomes 1. So
But
then you just
one
add
thirty
it.
three wouldn't be like seven, or that's just when you reduce it completely.
Yeah, that's when you reduce it completely.
So what's the significance of reducing it? Like, what does that mean?
I mean, it could be, some type of it could be some type of connection when you reduce the number down. Yeah, but if you just take it for the value it is straight up on the cipher, then that's what it is. Um, Food shortage 133, vibration 133, vibration. It's a negative vibration. If something like that were to happen, like a collapse, right? I
Yeah,
think the I think the word negative is actually 133 too. Negative
yeah.
133. So interesting how many words equal 133. Another big number is 201. The Pope, he lived in Suite 201 in the Vatican. The Pope's name, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, his name equal to 201 as well. 201 is the number of the Jesuits. It's a really big number. The Jesuit order, as you can see, 201. Jorge Mario Bergoglio, 201. Ignatius of Loyola, 201. Has to do with the Jesuits. um, so you see a lot of that number
Actually,
too.
I just heard it because I was watching a video when I remembered about the Pope. It just reminded me now that about the number 201 with him. The guy was he mentioned 201, and of course it made me think too of where we grew up.
Right.
In northeastern New Jersey, where we grew up, 201 is the area code of not mine actually, but a lot of people's phone numbers there.
Right. Right. Yeah. North Jersey, Bergen County is 201 land, and you know the Donbass region of the world that equals 201 as well. Order of Illuminati 201. Jewish mysticism, that's where gematria comes from, 201. William Henry Gates 201, that's Bill Gates' full name. Um, Again, Order of Illuminati, Sacred Name, the Holy Bible
Yeah,
201. Queen Elizabeth II 201.
Yeah. Did you see the Undertaker there?
Yeah, I saw that. State of Israel 201, Adolf Hitler 201. Yeah, maybe that goes to show you how like why there's a lot of small caps that live in the 201 area code,
Yeah, that's
you
really fun.
know. The Masonic Order 201. So many 201, Saturn Worship 201,
Wow, there's
you
a
know.
lot of stuff in 201.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
A lot of interest in New York Mets.
Yeah, right. Weather Control 201.
Damn.
So yeah, so you see how these numbers are all connected. And it's just interesting that the Pope lives in Suite 201 and his name equals 201. Like, come on now. And he works for the Jesuit Order 201, Ignatius of Loyola 201. Come on now. That's none of that's by mistake. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and dude, there is in North Jersey here. There's a ton. I'm sure like all of Jersey in general, but like there is a ton of like Catholic schools here. Schools like that.
oh yeah. Yeah, Catholic Jesuit schools and
Yeah,
um
a lot of Jewish schools as well, of
yeah,
course.
yeah, absolutely.
Because
I went to a
at
Catholic
my
school.
job, like because we don't do like public schools, but we do private schools, and like obviously the private schools consist of those Catholic schools and Jewish schools, all that.
Yeah.
And it's very you occasionally get something random, maybe like an Indian school, but dude, for the most part, it's like all Catholic and Jewish schools that you see that are in our league
Right.
list. Least.
Right, yeah. It's mostly that. And a lot of these guys that go to these professional sports leagues, they either came from a Catholic or Jesuit high school or college, or both. It's
Dude,
just
like
crazy.
top plays, right? Isn't don't so many like top recruits come from here?
Yeah, yeah. A lot of them come from here. A lot of them go to these Catholic schools. Trump, he went to Fordham, a Jesuit school. A lot of politicians, they go to Jesuit universities and before they become into power of where they're doing. So it's another example of how connected the Pope is to America. You know, every time the Pope comes to America, every pres every time the Pope comes to America, every president comes out to greet the Pope and they kiss his hand. Like, how many times have you seen someone go and actually greet someone, especially a president? You know what I mean? Like, when does the president ever greet somebody for coming to America? But when the Pope comes, the president is like right there when they land. You know what I mean? So it goes to show you how much power the Vatican has, and maybe we should be looking more into the Vatican and what they know about the world, and especially their secret chamber of secrets, their library of secrets they have down there.
Yeah, yeah, and it's them. It's they've teamed up with the small hat people, the Freemasons,
Yep.
other secret societies like Skull and Bones.
Right.
So, it's not one person, right? And then of course there's that the whole Rothschild family, and I guess you could tie them in with Zionism with the small hat people since that's what they claim to be, but
Yeah.
and there's people beyond them. But what I wanted to say, because I was actually going to say this before, but I forgot. With the ancient families, right? That there's people actually beyond them, and it's us. It's the average everyday person. We get to control everything, and it's like Shammy was saying earlier. It's like everything is a game to these people. They're basically playing a game because they're so rich, they have everything they want. That all they desire is power, control, and the whole 9 yards of that. Entertainment as well, right?
Yeah.
So me, you, our neighbors, everyone we come across every day, the average person controls it. And all we have to do, which is what I always urge, is to stop complying to the system, stop voting for politicians, stop feeding the beast system by paying taxes, by you have debt to pay or whatever. Just stop paying everything. Stop paying your rent. Stop paying your bills. Stop showing up to your job. Stop. We have to stop feeding the system. We're gonna have to suffer a little while, but let's suffer for a benefit as opposed to suffering and then coming into the hands of these same people who caused all of this suffering to begin with. When the people can actually make change and
Mhm.
make things better, and it can be at a grassroots level as opposed to federal politics and billionaires, rich people controlling and influencing everything.
Right. Yeah, man. I think a lot of people have to just come to that realization that we have the power. We control and dictate what goes on in this world, and as
Yeah.
long as we sit back in our asses and don't do anything about it, the evil is still going to continue to happen. And they need more people like us in the world, doing what we're doing right now, looking into things, creating, ideas to put into people's minds about what's really going on in this country, and not just looking at the TV and then talking to your neighbor about, oh, what I heard on the TV the other night. This must be what's going on. Like, you realize it's called televised
Expert said.
programming.
Expert said.
Yeah,
We don't know
yeah,
the experts, but the expert said.
right. I mean, so many people. I remember I got into this one debate with this lady when the C-19 was happening, and we were at a barbecue or whatever, and it was like my coworker's like aunt or sister or whatever. So she was, obviously she's an older lady, and she was like in her 50s, maybe 60s, and she was like, "Oh, I work in the medical field, so I know a lot about the what's going on in COVID. You know, the cooties, right?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, yeah, really? So, well, you think I should get the I should get the jab?" And she's like, "Yeah, you should." And long story short, she was just trying to like tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about, and I need to go ahead and get jabbed so everyone else can be safe. I'm like, well, lady, do you realize that this jab is a foreign substance that nobody knows anything about, and it's experimental at that. And it was created by the most sued pharmaceutical company for malpractice in the world. So you expect me to get this jab just because the TV said so and you work in the medical field and you think you know what it's about? Yeah, I'm okay. And like she was just like, like she just didn't have much to say because like I basically told her like I can have a different opinion about the jabs. Like I don't need to go along with whatever you know and what you're saying. And
Yeah,
like,
it's frustrating how much like people were how hypocritical people were, and how even to this day it seems like people can't look back and like see through their own hypocrisies because they probably got it themselves and they probably regret it. They probably
oh
realize,
yeah,
they probably realize, oh, I probably if I didn't get this, I probably would have been fine.
yeah,
Basically.
exactly.
So it's like, well, they know that if they do acknowledge people who they might have given shit, that it's just gonna make them look stupid. And that's what I'm saying. It's like that's why I'm so happy I never got it. And it was tough back then, man. It was really tough to like endure some of that by people, right? Because people looked at you like you were selfish. And it made no sense though. It's like because one, it's like, all right, if you have it, you should be okay theoretically because you have it. Um, Two, people kept saying, well, it's selfish because what if you give it to other people? It's like about this other people, right? This is what you kept hearing. What if you give it to your grandma? What if you give it to like your neighbor who's old? Like I don't know, it's all of a sudden people cared about other people. But really they didn't care about other people. What it really was narcissism actually, people caring about themselves because what it came down to was, oh, I got it, I'm a good person. That's really what it was. About
Right.
showing
And
their
I listen to the news.
exactly. Like, oh, I'm
Right.
smart. I'm a good person. I care. Because, dude, it was like they were making not threats necessarily, but they were saying that if you didn't get a vax, like you were a bad person. That's literally what they painted people as. And then they used the anti-vax thing, became a whole thing. So yeah, man, again, it was tough to endure, but like looking back on it, I'm so happy I did. So why can't we do that together as people? Because I was like kind of suffering alone at that time, man. Like everyone I knew pretty much got it, besides actually like my friend and Jimmy. And it's funny enough because they don't require it anymore in military now.
Right.
But again, he and it's not to brag, but he only didn't get it because of me. Like he probably just out of his own ignorance, like would have gotten it. Not even like because so I'm scared to get sick. It's like everyone's doing it, you know. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. Some people weren't like it's like with politics, like they don't care about it, but they're just doing it because everyone else is doing it.
Right.
So, and that's the issue, and that's that's why I'm glad we said it before because it's not like we're anyone special really, but we're doing the hard part, which is it's already hard to sit down and learn this. Okay, But the hard part then is trying to convey this to people and putting it out there because people might look at you as you're weird, and it sucks to be looked at that way. But I think we're at a point in time now where people are asking questions, and they can watch us all day, but until they actually look into things themselves, they'll never truly understand it. So that's always the goal. Sometimes people will ask me, well, what's your goal like with doing all this? Well, my goal is to help people wake up. That's really what it is. Put it simply.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're doing this to help people in general and help that next generation. And if we don't do this, I don't see what the purpose of living. What's the purpose of getting up every day and working our ass off for a corporation that doesn't care about us? A lot of people who work for a certain corporation, they don't own any stock in the corporation. They don't have any type of say in the corporation. So it's like at the end of the day, we're expendable. They can get rid of us at any given time and moment, and we'll be left out on the street. And some people, their whole identity is their work, is their job. You know, so it's like those people, I feel bad for them if say a certain power grid were to happen, say a 202 were to come about, with the where's the other 202 we saw? With Skull and Bones ritual, 202 Skull and Bones ritual, a 149 ritual that happens to do with the dollar collapsing. I feel bad if those people are a victim to that. Who's to say that the dollar won't collapse on the 149th day of the year? Who's to say that there won't be a power disaster on the 202nd day of the year? We don't know. And with the way all these military rituals are going, military equipment and technology are happening with their weather warfare, how they're able to create, tsunamis that could like, have you heard about that? How like the military is known for putting bombs in the ocean, and like they cause like crazy ripple effects with the waves.
I didn't know through bombs like that. I know
Yeah,
I know they can cause earthquakes though.
yeah, that's how they do it. Like they basically put like an
Oh, so
atomic.
it's bombs. It's not frequencies.
They can use frequencies too, but I know like they've done like actual bombs, and they put them in the ocean. Let's say like a nuclear bomb, right, or any type of atom bomb. Like they put it in the oceans, they planted it there, and they explode, and they can cause actual earthquakes to happen. And tsunamis. Um, who's to say like something like that won't ever happen? I hope not. But there's been people who've come out. What do they call those people who come out against government and stuff like that? Whistleblowers. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's been whistleblowers who've come out and said, yeah, I worked in the military and I was stationed to plant bombs in the ocean, and that's how we cause earthquakes to happen. So you
Huh.
know who's to say that that's not the case with this agenda, and we don't know. We just don't know. And a lot of people think these natural disasters are natural, and that's the problem. Is that when a major hurricane comes about, when a tornado or a tsunami happens in certain parts of the world, like Japan gets hit with tsunamis all the time. I start to think like maybe they have it out for Japan. Like the United States did bomb Japan with an atom bomb. Like how messed up is that? Um, there's something special about the Japanese people. Like when I look at Japanese culture, I think about like they have strong resemblance to Black people because one, they're extremely talented people. Like I don't know if you watch anime, but anime is amazing. It's absolutely
All
incredible. Say that again.
Is anime all Japanese?
Yeah, it's a Japanese creation. Like they created anime,
Yeah,
and
it's
like
funny enough, dude. I feel like I haven't met like that many Japanese people. Where I grew up in Tanafly, there's a ton of Asians, but they were mostly Korean.
right, right. Yeah, I haven't really met that many Japanese people either. It's mostly Korean or Chinese.
Isn't their population pretty small, Japan? Like, and like I know they have a really big population crisis, right? Where their population is declining and the birth rate and all that.
It probably is. I'm not up to
Yeah,
date with
I know
that.
that's a big problem Japan is having, but you are right in terms of like their cleanliness, their technology, and like there's big trust, right? I heard like you can leave like your cell phone out practically all day in Japan, just like at a bench in a park, and no one will take it, right?
I would assume so, and they have like trains that can go like 200 miles per hour, and it feels like you're not even moving on there. You
Oh
know,
wow,
yeah,
I've
they
seen, bro, I've seen women like after a club drunk, literally sleeping on the street in skanky outfits because like that's how much of high trust they have. Like
I
they feel safe enough to not get raped or
I
something.
believe it. Japan's a cool place, man. I would love to go there. And they're the ones who created anime. And if you really like watch anime, it is absolutely incredible. Like,
Yeah, I
uh,
have actually. I've never got into it, like watched it, but I've had some friends like who showing me it. I was like, oh wow, like dude, it's like intense. It's always like really intense. You know what I mean?
the storylines are crazy. Like the way they write these shows, it blows like American cartoons out the water. Like the American cartoons can't even touch anime. Like it's like night and day. Um, and so and by the way, if you ever want to get into anime, the most popular one right now is One Piece. It's really good. I really enjoy that one.
Okay, I never heard of it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you should check it out. It's on Netflix. You can watch the first like what 10 or 15 seasons on Netflix. Um, but yeah, it's like about like pirates who like sail the ocean and like they're sailing the world, and it's pretty cool how they like if I really tell you like how this show is, you'll see the similarities to how our world is right now, and you're like, wow, like this is a pretty good depiction on how the world is today. Just for like a quick like side, explanation, it's basically about like pirates who sail the ocean, and they're trying to go around. The goal is to become the king of the pirates, and to do that, you have to sail across the entire world. And as you go, into different parts of the ocean, it obviously it gets dangerous. There's other pirates out there, there's other powers and stuff out there. So like you have to be like really strong pirate, and you have a pirate crew, right? So they're all chasing treasure. But the thing is, it's like the pirates are rebelling against the government. So the world government, they call themselves the Marines or the Navy, and they are basically like the police force. They're the governments of our world, and they are controlled by a group of people called the Celestial Dragons. And the Celestial Dragons are a bunch of like, in a sense, in essentially, a Celestial Dragon is basically our version of billionaires. So like all the people who have so much wealth that they don't even know what to do with it, they're all like scummy people. So in the show, like the Celestial Dragons, they live in like this island that's protected by the government, and all the people on the island are just like fat, overweight people who they don't even breathe the same air as like regular humans. They have like a you ever see like Sandy in SpongeBob how she has that thing on her, like the bubble? They basically have like that on their heads, right? So they're like all these like fat, arrogant people who have, and they have slaves. Like they all have slaves, and they have all the wealth in the world gets taxed to them. So they're taxing everybody who lives in the world, and all that wealth and resources goes back to their land. So basically, it's the United States government. It's what they're depicting, like the billionaires of the United States government. So if you're a nation that's not paying taxes to the celestial dragons, then they won't protect you from pirates. So pirates can come into your country and basically take it over. So that's like the plot of the show, and it's like crazy how they make this show, and later on, not to spoil it, but later on in like the show, they depict that the celestial dragons, they were the ones who created the government, the world government, and they started from a group of 20 families. So 20 families from 1,000 years ago created the world government, and they
Hmm.
all rule the world. And it's supposed to be like a union of 20 families who rule the world, but really, in the later in the show, they tell you that there's actually one person who rules all over the 20 families. but it's not really a person. It's like a demon or like some type of like entity. So it's like crazy how this show is. I recommend like checking it out. It's definitely long, but like if once you get past like the first like 3 seasons, you'll be like, oh, okay, this shit's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah, it sounds like, and there's a lot of movies, shows, or whatever that do depict something along those lines, right? It's like some sort of wealthy elite, and they pay homage to a deity who, we can only imagine is probably depicting Satan, right? Some
Right.
sort of devil figure. Um, so yeah, it's really interesting how they put it all right in your face. Even in video games, man. A lot of like video game scenarios completely depict something like that, or maybe not the spiritual part, but like just like a wealthy family, right? And they're just like, let's just take over the world because we can, right?
Hmm.
So so yeah, man. It's and one last thing too. I did want to say, because I know you said you only were able to go an hour, and we almost went 2 hours here, so
Yeah.
we'll start to wrap it up. But last thing I just want to say is, when I was mentioning earlier about the censorship and how it's been generous now, it's not going to be like this forever if we don't fight back. And because obviously the powers that be, their plan is to, they're going to have complete control of the internet to where you're not going to have websites. It's not like, okay, you can't say stuff on Instagram, so you got to go to my website. It's like, no, they want to have control over everything, every
Right.
aspect of your life. You're not going to be able to have a website. So I'm enjoying this graceful time right now of being able to speak freely. But if we
Right.
don't change stuff, we're not going to be able to speak freely like this. And to take it a step further, you're not going to have any freedom of thought to where our kids, if we have kids, they're not going to know what freedom was like us. They're going to grow up in a world where they can't question things, where they're told what to think and what to do from the day they're born, and they're going to be all about it more than likely if they get older and the world still stands and these kids grow up and they're completely under Big Brother's control. It's going to be like 1984, how the youth were the most radical about Big Brother and how they were the most subservient to Big Brother, right? Because
Yeah.
that's what they do. They get you when you're young. That's how you get brainwashed. So these kids, man, I'm telling you, they're if we don't stop things now, not only are we not going to have any freedom of thought and more than likely be put in jail if you do try to have freedom of thought, but the future generations will never know what it's like. And you'll have a sick, satanic, pedophiles, Freemason Jesuits, little hat people, whatever you want to call them, psychopaths who are going to have complete and utter control of the future. So I'll leave it at that. And you guys let me know what you think. And Shammy, if you have any last words, I'll let you take us out.
Nah, I think you hit the nail on the head there with that one. So I think that's it for tonight. And anyone who is watching and came to this point, thank you. And of course, we'll be back with more videos, more information. Let's hope nothing like this happens over here. A power grid collapse. Let's hope it doesn't happen. But as far as what we're seeing right now with the numbers and what we know about Trump and the politics that are happening, predictive programming, it seems like it's inevitable for something like this to happen. So, the best thing we can do is to be prepared for it, to tell our family and friends about this stuff, make sure you have food, you have non-perishables, canned food, you got water, you got maybe some type of protection device, uh, have fire, have some type of blankets, anything you need, just in case if there is a power outage and it's longer than a week. I would I wouldn't I would think they wouldn't be longer than a week. You know what I mean? I think if a power outage happened for longer than a week, it would be some pretty bad things to come about if that was the case. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. So let's just hope for that not to happen. But we're just gonna keep it at that, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.
Like, share, subscribe.
Yes, please.